Hi, I'm going to read you a story from Stories by David Silva. I'm David Silva, by the way, so the stories are by me. But I mentioned the name of the book because if you look for a book called Stories by Me, unless you wrote a book of stories, you're not going to find one. And if you did, and if you do find it, this story's not going to be in it because this is only in Stories by David Silva. It's called Mary. When I was 10 years old, my family moved to England. It was the height of Beatlemania. Sean Connery was releasing a new James Bond movie every year, and Tom Jones was tearing up the charts. The UK was the center of the universe. We settled in a village called St. Margaret's at Cliff, so named because it sat right atop the White Cliffs of Dover. It was one of those very small towns in which if a kid did something bad in one part of town, his parents would know about it by the time he got home, as would every other house along the way. I suspect that if a kid did something particularly good, the same would also apply, but I was never one to put that theory to the test. Our school had about 80 students with 4 teachers over 4 classrooms. Across the street there was a pasture in which we children of the village would play soccer in the fall. When the ground was covered by snow, it would be snowball fights, and in the spring, our game was rounders. Rounders is a game kind of like baseball with a few variations. The bat's a little bit smaller. There's no balls, no strikes, but otherwise the theory is the same. Hit the ball, run the bases, and as is universal in any form of baseball played in a pasture, the bases had been contributed by the cows. Now, it was the first day of Rounders season in 1968, and even though I had spent the first 10 years of my life in Sacramento, I had never played baseball in any form. And I was up, swinging a bat for the first time in my life. And the first pitch came, and I swung, and what is probably the most miraculous moment in the history of friction, I connected, and that ball took off like an Apollo rocket. I don't know how far it went, although it seems to go a little bit further every time I remember this story. But the ball was rising towards the heavens when I passed first base. It was clearing the clouds as I passed second, and I was running towards third base where Mary Hay, the Scottish girl with curly brown hair, was coaching, screaming as she jumped up and down. Now, at this point, let me mention that first and second base were pretty fossilized bovine contributions. They might well have been sitting there since the Dunkirk evacuation in 1940. Third base, on the other hand, was downright fresh. And as I got to third base, 2 things happened simultaneously. The first is that I hit third base solidly as the baked-on sheen of the mound gave way like an eggshell, and I became aware of my foot sinking ankle deep into a fresh, moist pile of third base. The second is that Mary grabbed me, hugged me, and did something no one else had ever done. She kissed me on the lips. As I ran towards home plate, I remember that I sort of hopped as I tried to shake off the remains of third base. And I also remember how the sparrow, the swallow, the blue tit, and the robin combined voices to sing a song that no one in history had ever heard. I remember how the red and white clover, the poppies, and saxifrage combined to form a tapestry more colorful than a jumbo box of Crayolas. I remember how the sun felt on the side of my face. I remember almost every detail. I remember how Mary's curly hair flopped up and down. I remember how her lips felt. There's only one thing I do not remember. I do not remember the ball ever landing. Perhaps it never did. If you like this story, there are lots more like it in Stories by David Silva, for only $3.99 that you can order online. And if I can figure out how to, I'll attach a link. It might be up there, might be down there. I'll see if I can get my grandchildren to help me figure out how to do it. Thank you.